Hello and welcome to another video on the Mathematical Fundamentals, a course made by Brilliant.org, this North American online educational platform founded or co-founded by Sue King in 2011 when he presented this idea to a series of angel investors. So Chamath Palihapitiya present and now invest in this startup, this company, where so he previously worked as senior executive from 2007 2011 at Facebook, and then after that he created his own uh, fund called Social Capital, where he invests in companies like Slack, for example. So this huge overview is just a way to describe how do I get all of this knowledge and all of these essential tools to mastering is algebra, number theory, and logic. All right. So first things first, we start here is with the generalized and how the math. After all, the value proposition of the mathematic is the practice of a lesson and generalize what you learn from that. So it's the practice of generalize a lesson. So mathematicians are those who put at practice that, and they want to know why patterns arise from these lessons. Okay, and they use, for example, a language to describe that. So mathema, that word comes from the Greek mathema, mathematics, come from the words, the Greek word mathema, and so it describes or it means that the which is learned, what one gets to know. So this thing that you can know, if you put that at practice, now using algebra, which is the language to describe how the pattern arise and generalize them. Okay, so generalize this generalization based on this pattern that happen in real life from these lessons is how we can is now we use algebra to describe when those patterns or when those problems arise. We can see, oh, perhaps we can use this tool to solve this. All right, so in here, after all, the two main concepts are generalized and patterns. Okay, then I look now at how another powerful techniques, especially on the mathematics, is like how changing your perspective is a powerful problem solving techniques in math or in real life. So usually a complex problem with the right perspective can certainly make it straightforward. So there is no right or wrong, there's just different perspective to actually solve a particular problem. And this is one of the core, for example, in the computer science, okay, or any engineering, is that which perspective can we use to actually solve a problem in the most fast and effective way. So here we look at how, by looking at the mathematical fractions less than 1, a particular pattern arises, such as fractals, using geometry, and how by looking at a pattern greater than 1, how a pattern called compound interest arise, and how can we use those patterns in our life. So for example, looking now at the fractals, as a way to know where you can allocate your time to actually build the lifestyle or the life that you want to, and also provide you some space for creativity, for doing nothing, okay, essentially, and also with the compound interest when you want to achieve something. How doing that in a systematic way, that behavior, that compound behavior, will accumulate to actually get you something. In this case, the reason why I'm recording myself of putting here and try to explain all of this concept, abstract, complex context and concept in a very easy way is just a way to first practice my English skill. Second, my communication skills in the mathematical context, and then apply that into real life to actually solve someone else's problems. So, for example, in the computer science, perhaps with Shopify, combining that with other front end technologies and back end technology. But at the end of the day, that is the reason why I'm recording myself here and put up practice. So, the second or the other concept here is that thinking forward and backward, especially in the mathematics of logic. Okay? So, because logic, after all, is the relationship between a statement and their conclusions. So, by looking things that you can specify quickly or by working with true statements, okay, so you can understand the clue about them, you can reason about the problem faster. And the other is thinking backwards. So, by enumerate all the possible combinations here, and keep that in mind so you can filter out, yeah, so you can filter them, so you can filter that out. So the whole point of this thinking forward and backward, okay, in the mathematics is that by looking at things that you can specify quickly, by analyzing the statements, and then um, how you can is keep all the possibility in mind, you can reason about them faster. And whole that's the value proposition, or at least these three particularly, even though in these three concepts when we talk about, so for example, patterns and generalized, and the perspective, as well as logic, thinking forward and backwards, okay, so with these three concepts or pillars, now we can also apply that to our life as a way to solve our closest problem. So now that we look at this, that actually was very, very interesting. And we move on now to uh, a second section. I was going to call this, right? The second section. And this is now is like put up practice everything that we have learned so far. Okay? Meaning reasoning from result to cause. So, because working forward and backward, especially in logic, okay, the key difference here is that it's all about where do you start with, okay? So where do you focus first, okay? And by doing that, well, you ask yourself, what you're doing is, well, I hope I went to the right way, whether it's forward or backward, okay? However, for some problems that require for some problems where you can look at the result, okay, or how do you call it this? So they mention is for some problems reasoning from result to cause. From some problems, because after all there isn't a right or wrong way here to solve a problem. just that for some problems, backward or thinking backwards by enumerating all possible combinations can be very efficient despite being hard to apply. So we focus is on this particular approach in the mathematical logic. After all, what I'm doing here is just actually connect the different dots here and to create a narrative that explains this much more. Okay, so by connecting all of these dots, or in other words, so by looking at the generalized, and that's the core of the mathematics, look at the patterns, and also by now looking at the uh, patterns in the mathematical fractions and how by looking things from different perspectives is a powerful problem solving techniques in life, okay, and by looking at the mathematical by looking at the patterns that arise in the mathematical fraction less than one, such as fractals, and the mathematical fractions greater than one, the compound interest. How can we apply that to our life? And also, when it comes to analyze statements, okay, and look at the conclusion, look at what is the relationship that we can do, okay. So the way of how you can do those relationships is by thinking forward and backwards. In other words, look at the specific information. So look at the things you can clarify quickly, and then so you understand the clue. Now you can reason about them faster. And by thinking backward, it's like, okay, let's go to enumerate all possible information here, or possible uh, answer, okay, and then we're gonna filter out. So in other words, because the key difference here when thinking forward and backward is where you start, where you focus first, because there is no right or wrong way to solve a problem. They're just uh, they're just effective perspective. Okay. So when it comes to or for some problems, thinking backwards can be very efficient despite being hard to apply. So okay, we'll look at a couple examples of how can we do that. Again, by some problems, thinking forward, thinking backward by enumerating all possible combinations or by having this global information about that, okay, are very effective despite being hard to apply. So that's exactly what we're doing here. Reasoning from cause, reasoning from result to cause. Okay? So you can trust everything you hear, but you always have logic. Okay. So after I understand this couple examples, uh, like this, all right. So now we have is the case of pyromanic. Okay. As told by Dr. John Watson, Sherlock and Mr. Hudson and I went for our desert to celebrate a recently solved case. But mischief was afoot at a but mischief. But mischief. Oh, come on. Mischief. But mischief. But mischief. How do you say that in Spanish? But a trick. But mischief. But mischief was afoot. Was afoot. 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 Okay. Sherlock and Mr. Hudson and I went out for a desert to celebrate a recently solved case. Okay, but mischief was afoot out of favors pasticier. Pero una travesura, this is on Spanish, pero una travesura fue cometida en nuestro pie favorito, pasticier. Ah, on our favorite pasticier. Oh, okay. So my main flaw here is again English. English, British. Now it is British. Now it is British. Understand English statement. Understand British. British English statement. Okay. This is now recognizes this pain point. So this is the case of Pyroman. So Sherlock and Mr. Hudson and I went out for a desert to celebrate a recently solved case. But mischief was a food of our favorite pasticier. Pero una travesura fue cometida, fue puesta en marcha, a food of our favorite pasticier. Fue puesto en marcha nuestro pastelero favorito. So began the very brief case of the pyromanic. 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 Why pyromanic? Pyromanic. Why pyromanic? Pyromanic. What is the meaning of this? Meaning romantic. Oh, romance. Okay. First note use 78. 78. Retro-romantic. Okay, interesting. Pyromanic. Okay. Okay, the case of the pyromanic. El amante del pie. Okay, el caso del amante del pie. The case of pyromanic. So the best pasticier in all London is on a small shop, a baker's saint, owned by two desert chefs, Judy and Sarah. So this pasticier in all London is a small shop on Baker's End owned by two desert chefs, Yuri and Sarah. So this is a fact, well, or at least, well, uh, allegedly the best pasticier. This is an opinion, but the fact is that they are on Baker's End and they are owned by two desert chefs, Judy and Sarah. Okay. So when Sherlock and Mr. Hudson when Sherlock, Mr. Hudson, and Watson first arrive at the shop, that's right, okie dokie. Now, finally, it is time to plug in. There you got it. All right. Okay. So when Sherlock and Mr. Hudson and Watson first arrived at the shop, Sherlock boasted that he was able to deduce 5 facts about the desert. Mm-hmm. So Sherlock boasts that he was able to deduce 5 facts about the desert that then allow him to determine precisely which chef made each type of desert. So we're assuming here that Sherlock is it is infallible. Jesus, how do you say that? Infallible, infallible, infallible. Infallible logic.
Infallible logic.
Exactly. So if we're assuming that assumption one here that Mr. Watson, so Sherlock, uh, has infallible observational skills. Um, well, so Mr. Sherlock, Mr. Hudson, and Watson first arrived at the shop. Sherlock boasted. What the hell is boasted? Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Brag. Boasted. Brag. Jesus. So Sherlock boasted. Sherlock bragged. Sherlock alardeó that he was able to deduce 5 facts about the desert that then allowed him to determine precisely which chef made each type of dessert. Okay, which chef made each type of dessert? All right. Use a 5 bullet fact that Sherlock observed to determine precisely which chef made each dessert. So Judy made the cake. Okay, after all, you have this best pastissier in all London. It's in a small shop on Baker St. owned. Okay, Baker St. owned by 2 dessert chefs. Okay, Judy and Sarah. So Judy made the cake. Okay, so Judy made the cake. All right, but Judy made an even number of desserts. Interesting. Judy made an even number of desserts. Okay, dessert, even number of desserts. So it can be 1 or 3 or 5. Okay, this is this is not clear. Sahara made more of the dessert than Judy. Okay, again, this is not clear. The same chef made both the pie and the sundae. Okay, there is one chef that do the pie and the sundae. The pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef. Okay, so the pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef. So here now, uh, what we can say here, safely say, is that because the pie, uh, because the pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef, okay, it means that one possible combination is this. Because after all, Yuri made an even number of desserts, 2 or 4, okay, and Sarah, okay, and Sarah made more desserts than Judy, okay, so it can be 3 or all of them, okay, so we can say, hey, it does all of them. So in this case, this can be satisfied this condition, which is Sarah made more dessert than Judy, which can be sundae, the mousse, and the fudge. But the thing here is that the same chef made both the pie and the sundae. The pie and the sundae. Okay? The pie and the sundae. Alright. So the pie and the sundae. So Judy made the cake. So the pie and the sundae. The same chef made both the pie and the sundae. But Judy made the cake. Interesting. Exactly. But Judy made the cake here. So Judy made the cake. Judy made an even number of desserts. Okay. and this even number can be even 1. It can be 2 or 4. Okay. So the same chef made both pie and sundae. The same chef made both pie and sundae. Okay. The pie and the fudge were not made by the same. The pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef. Okay, the pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef. So the pie is done by Sarah and the fudge is made by Judy. So this actually satisfies all of these conditions. So you have is Judy make the cake first, okay? So Judy make the cake, but Judy made an even number of dessert, 2 or more, but Sarah made more dessert than Judy. So, okay, it must be at least 3 of them, all right? But the pie and the fudge were not made. Yeah, the same chef made both pie and the sundae, but the pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef. So the pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef. And this actually is true. So Judy only do is a fudge, but Sarah do the pie. So when you check here, that's correct. And if you want to take a look at the explanation here is this. So Judy make the cake. Okay? That's a fact. Use the arrow to see the solution. So Judy made the cake. That's right. So the first fact, and again we're working on facts. So the first fact states that Judy made the cake. So let's start by indicating that. Okay. The second is since there are 5 dessert specials here, and you made an even number of dessert, Judy is now able to make or 0, which is not true, so you discard that, 2 of them, all right, or 4, no more. Okay, you have now a constraint here. So that's great. Then the third fact is that Sarah made more desserts than Judy. It means that it can be 2, it can be more than, it can be more than 2. Okay, it can be more than 2, like this. So Sarah made more desserts than Judy. But again, it can be 2 or more than 4, which will contradict the first fact, right? So Judy must make exactly 2 of them. Okay? So Judy must make exactly 2 of them. So the same chef made both the pie and sundae, okay? Made both the pie and sundae. But the pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef. It means that now sundae and mousse have been done by Sarah, okay? But when you take a look at this, the same chef, the same chef both the pie and the sundae. Now that satisfy that condition, the sundae and the pie, that logic, that relationship. Okay. And finally here, so the pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef. The pie and the fudge were not made by the same chef. It means that, well, Judy makes the cake and the fudge. And that satisfy all of these conditions provided by Sherlock. From the way Romeo, the firefighter, regarded the sundae, he has ordered the sundae maker must be his beloved. She also made the pies tonight. Okay, from the way Romeo From the way Romeo, the firefighter, regarded the sundae, he hath ordered The Sunday maker must be his beloved. The way Romeo, the firefighter, regarded the Sunday he had ordered, the way the Sunday maker must be his beloved. She also made the pies tonight. I'm gonna leave that now, right here. That'll be all for this video. Take care. Bye bye.